Hello everyone, Lord here. Welcome back to Shadowverse. As you may or may not know, the expansion Brigade of the Sky was just released, and along with it, as usual, came a plethora of interesting cards. Some of them sparked new ideas, and some of them reinforced older archetypes. Today we're going to be taking our first look at the former. As such, welcome to the inaugural episode of Week 1 Decks, where we look at what people have brewed up in the craze that is the first week or so of an expansion's launch, take it for a spin and see if it has any potential to stick and actually become a meta mainstay. As a reminder, pretty much everything you see here is going to be subject to varying degrees of polish as people work on the lists, so you may want to hold off on crafting the exact decks you see here unless you really like them. I am potentially wasting my vials, so you don't have to. With that in mind, let's dive straight in with today's feature, Reanimate Shadowcraft. You might have seen this kind of thing done before. Use Burial Rite to put a high-cost follower in the graveyard and utilize various reanimate effects to bring them back, usually much earlier than they would be able to be played, or for much cheaper. The twist this expansion? With Zeus, the old primary reanimation target gone, the newly printed version of everyone's favorite Skeleton Knight has risen up to the challenge and provided us with a new target that is big, hard to remove, and actually synergistic with the mechanic. Combine that ability to potentially stick on the board with the also newly printed Fairy Spirit Maiden that can allow followers to attack 3 times after turn 9, and you've got yourself a pretty reasonable late game recipe. So, Mordecai and Fairy are the pillars of our strategy. Let's take a quick look at some of the supports. Soul Conversion and Demon Eater give us some much needed draw. Gloomy Necromancer and Ever Dark Strix are our main burial rites to put Mordecai in the bin. And Ceridwen plus Death Dragon Caller are our main ways to bring him back, with Ceridwen being a bit more flexible and also allowing us to burial rite when push comes to shove. The rest is good stuff. Cards that are just efficient on their own, help us contest the board, generate a good amount of resources, etc. This is usually the part of the deck that is very different for everybody, and you'll probably see some of my earlier experiments in the gameplay. In the end, however, I opted to go for a few more things that generate early game tokens, along with Corpse Lord and So Death Reap Life to beef up the mid game. But you can try anything you fancy, all the way from Ceres and Oldiel to Proto Bahamut. Anyway, let's jump into some games and see how this goes.
I guess you're looking for a fight.
My oath is true. I'm gone!
The void, it beckons me.
Why are you letting me live?
Fear is the first step of worship.
Who trained you?
Do you not fear me?
No! ends of the world.
You're done for.
That voice! I hear the world's voice!
Keep suck.
How could there be a future like this? Unbelievable!
It won't be long now.
A boon to you.
My oath is eternal. I'm gone!
This ends here. Forgive me. This power is away.
My oath is eternal. I'm gone! Two keys.
Not here. Not now. I'm through. Kudaran 戦いだ。 Another vermin wants the sword. Very well.
Are you letting me live?
So you have chosen.
My oath is eternal. On guard!
Come, I'll love you down to the bone. An azure befitting you. Darling, I'll be home soon. The night will be stained in blood. Catalina, Catalina, Catalina! Let this world slip into chaos.
The void, it beckons me.
Life does what I say.
Keep
Life, get out of the way!
My truth is forever. An azure befitting you.
Now what's the point? You're going to wake up now.
Too easy.
So you have chosen.
I shall hold nothing back.
This isn't fair. The immortal too easy.
Forgive me.
For my Catalina! It begins!
See? Open wide!
This isn't over. My oath is eternal. I'm gone.
Not acceptable! Not acceptable!
So that should be enough for you to draw a conclusion on whether this archetype is for you or not. Just in case you want to hear it, here's my opinion. The deck is really, really fun. However, that does not necessarily translate into competitive viability. The potential is definitely there. Once you get Mordecai rolling and are reanimating him every turn, things feel good for you. Sadly, things start looking a lot less exciting once you notice that your opponent's game plan is proceeding along despite your seemingly constant dominance. The fact is that the most currently popular or perceived to be strong decks utilize mechanics like Storm and Ambush, the two things I hate most about Shadowverse's design, by the way, which aren't really affected by what you're doing. Yes, you can one turn kill your opponent on turn 10, but really most of the time that's too late. Mordecai's resilient face does hinder some strategies, but even those often have access to either inbuilt answers, example Haven's Banish mechanic, or very easy tech cards like Fall from Grace that aren't even typically included to specifically counter this deck, but somehow end up catching it in the crossfire. And that is when things work. It is not uncommon to not see Mordecai all game or draw him too late. Not being able to set up good reanimate turns despite Mordecai basically getting rush is also a frequent problem. Your whole game plan is like a very fussy machine dependent on multiple pieces moving in tandem with each other to work properly. You can't be missing any pieces, you can't drop pieces in the wrong order, and you can't put a particular piece in any place other than the one that was specifically made for it. You can help some of these with creative play, experience, a.k.a. not making silly mistakes like me, and various card choices. Proto Bahamut provides a secondary reanimate target, potentially upping consistency. Aisha can serve as an alternative finisher to Fairy's effect. Ceres can combat aggro and so forth, but the fact remains that your endgame requires some luck, a lot more effort than most other archetypes, and in the end just isn't that impressive if you don't get the full Mordecai plus Fairy combo off. All in all, the archetype is fun, interesting, and definitely has some power behind it, but it is also inconsistent, finicky, and easily teched against. As unbelievable as it sounds for a deck centered around the card that keeps coming back and eventually can get a triple attack, Reanimate Shadow feels like a quite fair competitive deck, and sadly there is no place in the higher echelons of the meta for fair decks. I sincerely hope that one day all archetypes could be as cool and powerful while also feeling so very beatable, but that day is not today. So if you like the idea and have vials to spare, you might want to give it a shot. It is definitely quite fun, and you never know what we're gonna get in the mini expansion in about 2 months. However, if you're just a regular player looking for a consistent ladder deck, I suggest you save your vials. My personal opinion is that while Reanimate Shadow is definitely a contender, I doubt it is going to go higher than tier 2 until it gets at least a bit more support. I think even Shadow loyalists will most likely end up going back to Arcus after the initial hype dies down. But what do I know? Perhaps the archetype is amazing and I simply ruined my chances with this particular build, along with endless mistakes and silly decisions. Or maybe that's just wishful thinking. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Lord, and this has been Shadowverse. Thank you for watching.